From Recorded Future News and PRX, this is Click Here. It was supposed to be just another photograph. One of those forgettable shots taken in the cabinet room.
That's all right. We've just completed what many consider to be the most successful first 100 days of any administration.
But to someone who knows what to look for, it was a digital crime scene in plain sight. When you saw the photo of Waltz using telemessage, where were you?
I mean, I think I actually saw it on Blue Sky. I think I was just scrolling through Blue Sky and people were like making fun of Mike Waltz for checking signal messages on the day that he's getting demoted, basically.
And while he's in a cabinet meeting.
And while he's in a cabinet meeting.
I'm Dina Temple-Raston, and this is Click Here's Mic Drop, a closer listen to one of our most revealing interviews of the week. And today, we're unpacking the story behind that photo and what it accidentally exposed. A former national security advisor, a mysterious app, and a security lapse that may have given adversaries a front row seat to U.S. government communications.
I looked at the image, I was looking at the people that he has conversations with, and I was like, wow, this is just absurd.
At first glance, it looked like Signal, the encrypted messaging app favored by privacy hawks and intelligence pros. But what he was actually using was something else entirely.
It looks like he's using Signal. It's actually an app called TM-SGNL, which I had never actually heard of before.
Today, we talk to Micah Lee, information security engineer, investigative journalist, and the kind of person who pauses on a pixelated screenshot the way most of us might pause on a headline.
That's when I was like, okay, I should really look into this.
Stay with us. Click Here is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary on how you buy. Support for Click Here comes from Quince. And you're probably like me. When the weather warms up, the idea of buying yourself a whole new wardrobe seems like a good one. And then a lot of what you buy ends up in a pile of clothes you never wear. Quince will help break you of that habit. Their pieces are timeless, lightweight, and responsibly manufactured with premium fabrics and finishes. And the best part? Everything on Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find for similar brands because they work directly with top artisans and cut out the middleman. I have a pair of their suede mules. They're water repellent, look expensive but aren't, and the insole is incredibly comfortable from the moment you put them on. They're the perfect slip-ons for the summer. So treat your closet to a little summer glow-up with Quince. Go to quince.com/clickhere for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/clickhere to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/clickhere. I'm Dina Temple-Raston, and this is Click Here's Mic Drop. TM-SGNL is part of a suite of apps made by an Israeli company called Telemessage. It was acquired by a US-based company called Smarsh last year.
It's basically, almost exactly the same as Signal. They took the Signal code and then they just added some of their own code on top of it to do the archiving. But 95% of the code is just straight the same as Signal code.
But TM-SGNL is not a Signal clone. It's designed to do something Signal never would: archive your messages. TM-SGNL archives because it's used by a very specific audience. Companies and agencies trying to stay on the right side of compliance laws. They're saving messages in case someone or some regulatory agency needs to access them later. So that's one big difference. Another is, unlike Signal, you can't just download TM-SGNL.
It's not something that just anyone can go and install. It's not available in the public app store or the Google Play Store. It's basically only available for companies or, government agencies that specifically sign a contract, get...
On paper, that all sounds pretty reasonable. And Micah kind of put it out of his mind until he got this mysterious message from a hacker who had started to dig into this messaging app that Waltz was photographed using.
And it was actually kind of funny. I had one person, kind of quietly send me a Signal message with a link to their website with the source code.
It was open source on the internet, not by accident, but on purpose.
And then within the next few hours, I had 2 other people send me this link.
Micah posted the open source code to GitHub, a kind of Google Docs for code that lets people store, share, and work together on software projects from anywhere in the world. And then he published a blog post about this obscure Signal clone app that he'd never seen before. And that's when another message arrived.
An anonymous hacker sent me a message and was like, I found a vulnerability in the telemessage website.
2 hours later.
Yeah. And the vulnerability that they found, it wasn't actually a vulnerability in the app itself. It was a vulnerability in the server that the app communicates with. I've been calling it the archive server.
The hacker had started poking around TM-SGNL's code, and within 20 minutes had found a hole. And it wasn't just bad, it was catastrophic.
So these files that have a bunch of random stuff in memory, if you search for the word password, which is the first thing that the hacker searched for, there was actually usernames and passwords just in the memory dump.
A memory dump from a server is like taking a snapshot of everything that server was thinking about at a specific moment in time. More technically, it captures the contents of a server's memory, or RAM. So that means it finds things like programs it's running, open files, passwords, data it's processing, and it all saves that to a file. The system does this when something goes wrong, like a crash, so the IT team can go back and analyze what the server was doing at the time. Think of it like freezing the scene of a crime, so investigators can pore through the details later. And in one memory dump, the hacker found a huge stash of usernames and passwords that allowed him to log into the telemessage website as a user.
One of the first ones that they logged in as was Customs and Border Protection.
But it wasn't just one username and password that he found. He saw lots of WhatsApp, Telegram, and Signal messages, too.
Then they quickly realized that these memory dumps also contain plain text messages.
Let me repeat that. Plain text messages, not encrypted. And the reason that's a little crazy is that the whole premise of an app like Signal is that once you hit send on your messages, they go out encrypted. Only the receiver can read them. Imagine how troubling that would be if they were sent by someone like, say, Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
And could they look something up like, hey, Marco, and get the messages?
Yeah. And I was actually trying to do stuff like that. So I had a hypothesis from looking through the source code that that telemessage wasn't actually end-to-end encrypted like they claimed, that the server had access to the plain text of messages. I wasn't sure about this, but looking through the source code, that's kind of what it looked like.
And the timing of this TM-SGNL story couldn't have been worse. We'll have more on that when we come back. Stay with us.
Most of our media are owned by a handful of tech billionaires, but there's one place that still operates like the internet was never invented. On the new season of The Divided Dial from On the Media, we're exploring shortwave radio, where prayer and propaganda coexist with news and conspiracy theories, and where an existential battle for the public airwaves is playing out right now. Listen to On the Media wherever you get your podcasts.
From Recorded Future News, this is Click Here. That photo in the cabinet room, of course, wasn't the first time Mike Waltz had found himself in hot water over his text messaging habits.
The White House has confirmed it inadvertently added a U.S. journalist to a private group chat discussing classified plans to bomb Yemen.
That was a signal chat heard around the world, because the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, decided to send the group real-time updates of a military operation. So when Waltz was caught in that photo using TM-SGNL in a cabinet meeting just weeks later, well, it landed pretty hard. Though you could make the case that the TM-SGNL episode is worse, because its messages were sitting unencrypted in a regular server in Northern Virginia.
I think that most people who are using this app are expecting it to just be secure, right? Like, okay, I'm using Signal, that's secure and stuff. I'm going to add this thing on, which just gives us a archive of all of this so that, like, in my government agency, they have a secure, file server somewhere that has a backup of all these messages.
In fact, the archive server was hosted by Amazon Web Services, in the same kind of cloud data center used by thousands of companies. So it was fine for a doggy daycare's billing system, not fine for messages about covert military ops.
It turns out what's actually happening is it's sending all of their messages to this very insecure server that has a bunch of security vulnerabilities,
including debugging tools that were left on.
And they left this debugging setting on their production server.
Let me explain. In development, engineers often install debug tools so they can watch what a system is doing, inspect the memory, log activity, all to catch bugs before they really matter. But when you move to production, the live version the public actually uses, you're supposed to turn those tools off. Because if you don't, and someone sends the server a request for data, it kind of spills its guts. That memory dump that we talked about before. And one of those dumps that the hacker asked for actually captured internal lobbying discussions from a crypto firm called Galaxy, just as they were trying to get a bill through Congress.
And the reason why those messages were there is because they happened to be sending those text messages at the exact same time that the hacker happened to get the memory dump.
So if, for example, the hacker had happened to ask for a memory dump at the time, say, they were adding a journalist to their chat messages, they might have seen all of that too. Is that right?
Yeah.
So they could have gotten lucky.
Maybe if Mike Waltz was texting with J.D. Vance or something, like if that happened, then that would be in the memory dump.
And even if J.D. Vance wasn't using TM-SGNL, didn't matter. Waltz was archiving the messages with the app on his end.
Even if J.D. Vance isn't using the same app, Waltz is uploading all of J.D. Vance's messages, and in like any Signal group that he's in with J.D. Vance, he's like Waltz's phone has been uploading those.
All these damning things, this is just what one journalist and a hacker found in a single week, which raises the question, what could an adversary do? Or rather, what has an adversary likely already been doing before the outside world discovered government officials were using TM-SGNL?
If I were an adversary, wouldn't I be just asking for memory dumps constantly?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, it seems like most people in the public didn't really know about this company, didn't know its kind of incredibly important role that it was playing in government communications. But I would be surprised if, adversaries didn't know about this. I think it's very likely that U.S. adversaries have looked into this company and have either found this vulnerability or other vulnerabilities and have been exploiting them for a while. Like, that just seems quite likely to me.
And to make matters worse, a couple of days after this first TM-SGNL vulnerability was revealed, NBC reported that a different hacker had found another one.
The messaging app TeleMessage has suspended its services after hackers claim to have breached it and stolen files.
TeleMessage suspended its service. Senator Ron Wyden called for an investigation.
Senator Ron Wyden just published a letter urging the Attorney General to look into the serious threat to U.S. national security posed by telemessage, because, White House staff and federal agencies have been using it. And so I think that, I think it's very likely that the government is going to stop using telemessage.
Are you still digging into this?
Yeah, I'm still digging into this. It will be great to know who in Trump's cabinet's using telemessage, but also just like what other government agencies are using telemessage. A lot of people are looking at this. I'm hoping that maybe people will share their findings with me too.
The crazy thing is, this didn't need to happen. There are systems they could have used, ones built for this exact purpose, ones with actual security baked in.
The NSA has developed systems for them to use securely. This is how the US government has been working with secret stuff for a really long time.
But instead, they went for a knockoff signal clone with debug mode left on, for convenience or optics, or because no one told them not to. So if you're wondering how a secure government app ends up leaking secrets, it's not always about sophisticated code or clever foreign adversaries. Sometimes it's just hubris and a really bad group chat. From Recorded Future News, this has been Click Here's Mic Drop. It was written and produced by Megan Dietrich, Sean Powers, Erica Guida, Zach Hirsch, Lucas Riley, and me, Dina Temple-Raston. It was edited by Karen Duffin. We'll be back on Tuesday with an all-new episode of Click Here. Have a great weekend.
If you're looking for a daily guide to cybersecurity news and policy, sign up for the Cyber Daily from Recorded Future News. It serves up the day's most interesting and important cyber stories from our sister publication, The Record, and then aggregates all of the big cyber stories you might have missed from news outlets around the world. Just go to therecord.media and click on Cyber Daily to get all you need to know about the world of cybersecurity right in your inbox.